They sent a probe, watched the surface, but nothing more. We're just collecting information. They started to study it and mentioned its structure. They want to exploit it. From the moment was on Earth, they too began to think differently. All.
Hello and welcome back to Wonkle Investigates. Today we'll be taking on quite the doozy, an ARG or analog horror series known as The White Door Opened, a series helmed by one known as TextMoon Online, who has been supporting this series for about a year now, and is active in this comment section and has given me the blessing to make this video. If you at all feel uneasy with topics of cosmic horror or gore, I suggest turning it off now. For those that are still with me, let's jump into it. As it currently stands, White Door Opened has over 50 videos and over 2 hours of content to go through. I will try my best to portray all the information that I can through my videos, but I do suggest that you check it out for yourself and support the series. The channel link will be in the description for you. White Door Opened is a series of videos posted through the lens of an organization known as the State Organization of Anomalous Figures. There are collections of found footage, informational videos, and recorded instances, all compiled here for presumably the viewer to understand what's going on in this world. The first video posted on the channel was over 10 months ago, named Anomalous Incidents Informational Material, and there are some serious takeaways to learn from this original post.
Among the observed anomalous figures, we distinguish 5 forms: traces, headless, Nephilim, copyman, stretch. Traces, an anomaly appearing in the form of plants such as tall grass, bushes, or vines. While the shape imitates the appearance of real plants, they are distinguished from the rest of the environment by almost complete black color and the lack of any shadow. Headless, appear mostly as humanoid beings, although often deformed, having no head. Despite this, they seem to be perfectly oriented in the field. The moment a potential victim spots an anomalous entity and gets close enough, it immediately rushes towards it. An encounter with this creature almost always ends with the head detaching from the rest of the body. Nephilim, huge, usually 4-legged, bony creatures with gray-colored skin. They have not been observed to have organs such as eyes, ears, or nose. However, they have an extremely well-hidden mouth in the head-like part of their body. It is not uncommon for long, sharp, bone-like elements to protrude from the anomalous entity's body. However, they do not seem to hinder the movement of anomalies. When a potential victim comes within range of the anomaly, usually within 100 to 300 meters, it begins to emit a long, rumbling sound. Once the victim is at least 20 meters from the anomaly, they begin to experience the symptoms of a psychic event. Shortly thereafter, the anomaly rushes towards the victim, then, uttering a deafening throws. So far, 4 anomalous creatures of this type have been recorded. Copyman is an anomaly appearing in the form of a human. The original appearance of the anomaly is unknown, due to the fact that it uses dead human bodies to move. Over time, the anomalous entity begins to affect human tissues, causing them to expand or tear, which consequently shows only a small part of its true appearance. One such feature is white skin with visible muscles, stretch. A type of biological anomaly that is transmitted by touch and by droplets, interfering with the structure of the human body. Contact with the anomaly initially results in dizziness or loss of consciousness. This painful process always ends with the death of a person within a week of his encounter with the anomalous entity.
This series juggles a lot at the same time. Something unique about it is we learn exactly what's dangerous out there immediately in our first video. And what we find in these later videos are experiences in people of these affected places by these anomalous figures. The video melody is a custom track composed and played by Texmoon himself, where the lore is the person who died there had this tape on them next to this radio tower, and their skin was completely removed, therefore we can correlate that this was the work of Copyman. In videos like Evidence and Quarry, we can see interactions that people have had with some of our other monster friends. Most likely the Nephilim or the Headless, which we also know now that the Headless is known as the Oppressor. But most importantly and most interestingly, the videos named The Oppressor in Observations talk about the moon in a very strange way. First in Observations, we listen to a shadowy figure explain what they're seeing when investigating the moon. And at the end of the video, some form of branch or some form of eldritch tentacle covers the lens where you can no longer see the moon. And the video Oppressor kind of explains what's going on here. It says that the moon is dead, which is very weird because was the moon living in the first place? I thought it was just a floating rock in the sky, but what it says afterwards is, it is observing us the whole time. Whatever the moon has become, it may be the source to all the dangers and anomalies happening currently on the Earth. Continuing on with this series, we get to learn a lot more about the origins of how all this started. What the next few videos start to focus on is something called the Shard, something not mentioned before this. The Shard is not one of the anomalous creatures described in the beginning of the series, but in fact seems to be the vessel in which these creatures made it to the Earth. And we are also introduced to a couple new characters. In the video aptly titled White Door Opened Episode 1, we get to learn of someone named Benjamin. But interestingly enough, at the very end of that video, we see a series of numbers placed on the screen. These numbers are correlated with an ASCII decimal place, which can be translated into the alphabet, which, when translated, says, "It is not Ben anymore. He tried to kill it. Jeremy told him the truth." Now Benjamin we know a bit about. He was a supervisor for the Shard project, aptly named, and was supposed to be helming this sort of containment of these anomalous objects and creatures. But he seemed to have been acting weirdly, potentially had some form of close encounter with one of them. And as we know, one of the creatures literally mimics human likeness, and another one creates psychic events. So whether Benjamin would be alive and just had gone crazy, or is in fact being mimicked by this Copyman creature, we don't know. And something else that has remained very, very elusive is this aforementioned Jeremy.
Dette basen. Vi fant dette stedet. Vi fant dette skjæret. For å være ærlig så hadde alt vært bra hvis det ikke var for at vi I tillegg til skåren har ferske spor her. Det ikke et dyr. Og det definitivt ikke menneskelig.
In the video aptly titled, He's Awake, we get to hear the report of some form of Russian investigator who finds a shard and talks about his experience with this, and at the very end it says, Jeremy is awake, but in the reflection directly under it says, he's not alive. This combination of people are dead but they're still being active and being used for some malevolent purpose seems to be happening quite frequently. While we know the origins of this Benjamin, we know nothing about this Jeremy character. One of the next videos to come out is something called the archives. This has been mentioned before, that all this footage has been archived ever since one of the main anomalous events occurred. The archives start out with two hazmated people, presumably taking out or taking care of the Nephilim, saying that the year is 2006 when this video was taken, and that the Nephilim have been disposed of. Ironically, soon after that, the radio that they were carrying with them, with no battery in it, starts to play music. And something very interesting happens afterwards. Take a look.
There was a man here. His top powder has it through the web of reality. And now it's happening again. He won't let us go. He won't do it again. The blind care took away their consciousness. Now they are the threat. Under the control of the oppressor, they don't listen to me.
In the White Door Open episode 1, there's a hyperlink that shows up for a very split second, and when this hyperlink is put into Google, a website hosted on Canva shows up. State Organizational and Anomalous Figures. SOAF is an international organization dealing with capturing, securing anomalies that do not occur naturally in the environment which pose a threat to Earth. Remember, do not panic. In the event of an anomalous incident, find shelter and, above all, stay calm. Attention! Due to increasing activity of the Traces anomaly, we advise that everyone remain calm and be cautious if you observe it. But right under that, if you highlight it, the words "they lied to you" will appear. In the archives video, a lot of interesting things are said, and the shadowy being that talks to you directly talks about the blind sphere. Now, the blind sphere has been mentioned before, and is the thing that I believe is the most important piece of information a part of this ARG. I believe that the blind sphere has something to do with the moon mentioned at the very beginning of this ARG, whether the moon was destroyed and replaced, like in the movie Nope, or something else entirely. Perhaps the moon has always been this eldritch being, we don't know. But there is a piece of paper seen earlier in the series that explains the origin stories of the blind sphere. Allow me to read. In the primeval abyss, before dawn, darkness gave birth to a mighty being. For eons it was hiding in the form of a sphere filled with boundless emptiness. Wandering aimlessly in the immensity of the universe, the sphere gained thought over time. Its creation initiated another one, and so over time, the awareness grew. The consciousness allowed action. The sphere slowly began to take shape. Her form emanated a wonderful bright light that crumbled and built anew. But the sphere persisted, and watched the stars as they formed and died. The sphere eventually began to mimic the way the planets and stars and all other bodies in the universe moved. However, once the sphere encountered a strange sight. It found a void, boundless, free and massive emptiness. The sphere watched as the black abyss destroyed everything around it. The sphere, enamored with fascination, tried to imitate emptiness. The vast abyss that stretched within the sphere began to tremble. Its surface ripped to shreds. The sphere quickly lost its former shape, thus losing its emptiness once and for all. Consciousness merged with the new, unnatural and gargantuan shape, creating a new form, a form that oppresses that was old and powerful. The entity soon after gave itself a name, Lupkopdot. I have no idea how to pronounce this last word, but if I have done anything in my English classes, I know how to correlate things with one another. And I know for a fact that that is a name that H.P. Lovecraft himself would use to describe one of his monsters. This form of celestial ancient body, indescribable horror, giving it a name that you can't even pronounce in English, like Cthulhu, or the Mountains of Madness. This ARG is taking something straight out of H.P. Lovecraft, and I am here for it.
I suppose this will be the last message I leave. When we started to investigate the shard at the base, we were sent documents, analyzes for people with various authorizations. There were also files inaccessible even to me, the project supervisor. A few days after the first collider test, I was called in by someone from the outside. A person more important than me. He was the one who showed me those files. Pictures of something we haven't seen before. Now, before it's too late, I'm leaving you with these files. If the theories are confirmed, we will have a serious problem. Jeremy's words come true.
Much like many of the characters in H.P. Lovecraft's work, I feel like the more I dig into this, the more insane I go. I have like a 10-page document here with screenshots and notes written all over it. It's so confusing and very difficult to keep under control. But there are a few more things that I want to talk about before ending this video. The episode labeled White Realm has a couple fun facts. This video, just like the note that I read to you earlier, White Realm describes this blind sphere, this Loptgot, or however you pronounce it, talking about this realm in between existences, how the blind sphere created its own world that wasn't made for you, but the oppressor wants to take you there. The oppressor, remember, is the person that's taking off people's heads, potentially killing them, is sending them to this world, some form of purgatory, we don't really know. But there is a Caesar cipher written in the description of this video that, when translated, says this: "Behind the waters, beyond the dream, there shines a river, boiling in steam. But those forgotten found the way through shore. The answer was hiding behind the white door." I'll be letting the next video play out while I read this description. Silesian, March 12th, 2013. The International Organization of Anomalous Figures have been informed that a mental anomalous event occurring in the vicinity of City Blank. 2 scouts were sent there. The observations ended with the death of one of them. Contrary to initial assumptions, the source of the anomaly could not be found. The description that Madness is explaining must be the 2 researchers in the hazmat suits shown earlier in this video. One of the hidden messages says that he doesn't know that he isn't real. What we can take from this is that one of them was a mimic, the copy man potentially, playing along in this hazmat suit, leading the other one astray, and eventually killing him. How these autopsies are described as if they were being attacked by an animal, but are somehow bipedal. In the last broadcast of Guantmo, September 3rd, 2000 something, Guantmo County has been decontaminated. Cities and locations with a recorded Category C anomalous event were burned to the ground. Anesthetics were distributed in the form of special aerosol. No traces of anomalous figures were found in the decontamination area. This last broadcast shows video clips of a city completely being burned to a crisp, which we can now assume were the cities shown in the Red Mist video. Organized attacks on these specific locations, potentially near these shards that dropped, were attacks that happened all across the city with these creatures attacking in this red mist, filling the air, turning people mad. And what seems to have happened is the organization trying to contain these anomalous events burned down these cities in the attempt to quarantine and eliminate the threats. Thin Dragon is where I will end part 1 of this series. The main takeaway we have from this video is in the description. When deciphered, gives us some reassuring information. All of the 5 waking up, watching the night sky. They do not remember their creator, though they're looking at him. Yet they've gone insane, forgotten what made the world collapse. The only thing they remember is the pale light of the void. Loptgot, act of creation. This final poem confirms my theory that the blind sphere has in fact replaced the moon. As the anomalous creations of Loptgot are looking up in the sky, they can see their creator, but do not remember him. The horrors that have occurred already are just the beginning. Unless this anomaly research team is able to completely contain the anomalies currently running rampant upon the earth, and then somehow be able to deal with some eldritch god, things seem to be stacked up against them, and it looks like things are only going to get worse from here. Thank you for tuning in, and be prepared for part 2 soon. Have a good day.